The architecture of celebrity in the modern era depends almost entirely on what remains private, what the world knows about someone. The version of them, distributed across interviews, performances, carefully curated social media, exists in deliberate contrast to what stays behind closed doors. This distinction, once maintained by distance and inaccessibility, has become increasingly fragile. Technology enables communication at scale, yet it also creates permanent records of moments never intended for an audience. Those records, when leaked, reveal the gap between performed identity and whatever exists underneath. In November 2025, during a late-night TikTok livestream, Rachel Beaver found herself in a moment of boredom and peer pressure that would cascade through the internet for months. The 23-year-old reality television personality, known primarily for her appearances on MTV's Teen Mom, Young Plus Pregnant between 2019 and 2022,
get on my phone like a month later, and I'm like looking at my phone, and I'm like, how to take a double take? Because I'm like, what the Lil Wayne? It's like,
was broadcasting live to followers from her home in Tennessee. Her daughter Hazley was asleep in the next room. Viewers were chatting with her, scrolling through her feed, and the conversation inevitably drifted to celebrity gossip. Someone brought up Jenelle Evans, another Teen Mom figure, and rumors that had been circulating about Evans and rapper Lil Wayne. The chat erupted with suggestions. Someone typed a message. Text him yourself. Beaver, intoxicated and entertained by the absurdity, did exactly that. She sent a direct message to Lil Wayne's Instagram account. The message read, "Fly me out, I won't say anything like the last one." The phrasing was deliberately cheeky, a reference to Evans's decision to publicize her own encounter with Wayne. Beaver hit send, then forgot about it. The internet operates on different timescales than human memory, and by the time her phone buzzed a month later with a response, she had largely moved on. What followed was a series of private exchanges that would remain sealed between them for months, until Rachel Beaver decided to release screenshots of the conversation to entertainment media outlets in August 2026. Her decision to leak the messages opened a window into the private behavior of one of hip-hop's most financially successful but personally turbulent figures, and it exposed the vulnerability of anyone who enters into unverified digital correspondence with a public figure. The messages, first reported by TMZ and subsequently covered by outlets including AOL and Hot New Hip Hop, revealed a pattern of behavior that Lil Wayne's representatives never addressed on the record. According to the reported exchanges, Beaver asked Wayne if he could fly her out, and Wayne responded affirmatively and asked for her phone number. The conversation shifted from Instagram direct messages to SMS, taking on an increasingly personal tone as it progressed. Rachel suggested they wait to meet up until after Christmas because she'd need time to line up a babysitter for her children. Then, on January 3rd around 5 a.m., it appears Wayne reignited the conversation with a simple message. Rachel Beaver's situation mirrored, in some respects, the circumstances of Jenelle Evans. Evans, the older and more recognizable teen mom figure, had gone viral in September 2025 when she disclosed her own interactions with Wayne during an Instagram livestream. Evans had claimed that Wayne reached out to her first, had flown her to Los Angeles, and that the encounter remained consensual, but ultimately unfulfilled because she declined to move toward physical intimacy. She emphasized that Wayne had been respectful throughout. Evans alleged that although the topic of hooking up eventually came up during their time together, she declined, saying she wanted to go out to dinner and get to know each other first. The rapper allegedly flew the mother of three back home. The pattern was eerily similar with Beaver, except that Beaver never actually traveled to meet Wayne. The logistics of her life, the practical demands of being a single mother to two children, created obstacles that eventually prevented the meeting from occurring. Index =8 to 1 inches, but it appeared as a green text, leading her to believe she'd been blocked. She attributed the collapse of the arrangement to a passport or identification issue that had prevented her from boarding the flight. Wayne, she stated, simply ceased responding to her messages. Rachel Beaver's background provides context for understanding why the interaction mattered enough to her to retain the screenshots and eventually share them. Index =10 to 1 inches Rachel spent most of her childhood being raised by her maternal grandmother, Janice, prior to her parents' history of drug and alcohol addiction. She became pregnant at 16 and gave birth to her first child, Hazley Ray, in February 2019. The Teen Mom franchise documented her attempts to navigate motherhood while still a teenager, while also dealing with the public scrutiny that comes with being on television. Rachel eventually decided to step away from Teen Mom, young plus pregnant. In August 2022, she announced that she was leaving the franchise, explaining that reality television had negatively affected her mental health. After leaving television, Beaver attempted to rebuild her life away from cameras. She had another child. She worked towards stability. She existed in a state of partial obscurity, recognizable to Teen Mom viewers, but no longer a central figure in entertainment discourse. Then, in a moment of intoxicated impulsivity, she reached out to one of the most recognizable rappers in the world. The gesture was simultaneously a joke and a genuine exploration of possibility. If nothing happened, it would become a funny story for friends. If he actually responded, if something actually developed, it would represent a radical departure from her circumscribed reality. Wayne did respond, but months later, when he did, the interaction contained no evidence of him having searched for who she was or what she had done. He treated her as an object of potential interest, a woman who had publicly written to him, someone worthy of a reply. The shift from her reaching out to him demonstrating active interest created a dynamic of pursuit that played out across dozens of text messages over a period of roughly 4 months. The content of the messages, as described in media reports, reveals practical negotiations about logistics and expressions of desire. He offered to cover her travel expenses. He indicated willingness to wait until her schedule accommodated the meeting. Sexually, in direct and simple language. These were not romantic overtures, they were transactional. His money in exchange for her time and physical presence. Lil Wayne's personal life, by August 2026, had become a recurring narrative of engagements and breakups. Most recently, on-again, off-again girlfriend Denise Bidot publicly called out the rapper for ending their relationship on Mother's Day 2025, and later alleged physical and emotional abuse in a separate video she shared online. That relationship had unraveled after years of on and off dating. Before Bidot, Wayne had been engaged to model Latisha Thomas from 2017 to 2020. Before Thomas, he had been engaged to singer Nevaeh, with whom he shares a son. His relationship history read like a sequence of partnerships that generated headlines, produced children, and eventually dissolved into public disputes or quiet departures. In May 2026, before the Rachel Beaver messages had become public knowledge, TMZ reported that Wayne had become secretly engaged to a woman in her 20s from Indiana, with the proposal reportedly taking place sometime in the earlier months of 2026. The identity of this woman remained protected, reported as Maudie Cannon by some outlets. By July 2026, that engagement was over. Rumors of Lil Wayne's engagement to the social media influencer have been circulating since May 2026, but that relationship clearly didn't last anywhere close to a milli. The timeline matters because it establishes Wayne's personal state during his correspondence with Rachel Beaver. The alleged January 3rd message saying, "Want you," came during a period of perceived stability with Denise Bidot before their May Mother's Day breakup. By April, when Rachel suggested planning a meeting around her birthday, on April 8th, Wayne was technically still in a relationship, though one that would unravel publicly within 6 months. The messages reveal him pursuing another woman while simultaneously maintaining his public partnership with Bidot. This is not unusual behavior among certain demographic groups of men with power and resources, but it is worth noting because it demonstrates the compartmentalization required to maintain multiple simultaneous romantic or sexual pursuits. Rachel Beaver's decision to publicize the messages in August 2026 occurred in a specific context. The Rachel Beaver leak came just weeks after she had given birth to her second child with boyfriend Scott Hoop. She was navigating single motherhood across 2 children from different fathers and attempting to build some form of stable domestic life. The Lil Wayne messages in that context represented several things simultaneously: a story of what might have been, a marker of the gap between her circumstances and the circumstances of wealthy celebrities, and an opportunity to briefly become part of the entertainment news cycle again. In interviews following the leak, Beaver defended herself against accusations of gold digging. She says Wayne's millionaire status made taking him up on a free flight to come see him a no-brainer, saying, "I don't care if you're Lil Wayne or Joe on the corner, you're paying for my flight. That's how I roll, and that's just how it works." She emphasized the banality of her motivation. Wealthy men offer women free trips. Single mothers sometimes accept those offers. The novelty, from her perspective, was not the interaction itself, but the fact that the wealthy man was Lil Wayne. What remained notably absent from the coverage was any direct response from Lil Wayne himself. Without confirmation from the rapper, the messages and proposed meetup remain allegations based on Beaver's account and screenshots. His representatives did not respond to media inquiries. He did not issue a statement. He did not confirm or deny the messages or explain his rationale for ceasing communication. This silence is itself a form of communication. An implicit acknowledgement that engaging with the narrative would mean entering into a discourse where his behavior, as described, might be scrutinized. The absence of verification creates a fundamental epistemological problem. The screenshots, as reported by entertainment media, appeared to come from Lil Wayne's verified Instagram account initially, but the subsequent text message exchanges could not be independently authenticated. Media outlets acknowledged this limitation. The Ashley's Reality Roundup first reported Beaver's account in June. The outlet said, videos it reviewed appeared to show the initial messages coming from Wayne's official Instagram account. However, the later texts have not been independently authenticated. This means the story exists in a state of partial verification. The beginning is confirmed or at least not disputed. This uncertainty has become the norm in celebrity reporting. Leaked messages, exposed emails, and shared screenshots constitute evidence in a journalistic sense, but they exist below the threshold of legal proof. A private citizen has shown media outlets what they claim is correspondence, and media outlets have reported what they have been shown. The audience is then left to determine credibility based on whatever seems plausible or aligns with their pre-existing assumptions about the people involved. The patterns that emerge from the reported correspondence: a wealthy man offering resources to women he finds attractive, an initial lag in response suggesting either disinterest or deliberate withholding, the eventual expression of interest,